This is part 11 of my 7.5-inch gauge Holmside Locomotive build and covers work completed in July 2025. July saw work on the Holmside pickup and progress was made rebuilding the engine chassis after dismantling it to rivet horn blocks into the frames. This photo shows the chassis on the bench in support blocks. The video that follows shows the chassis going back together. Here's the frames, in supports on the bench. I used rebuilding the chassis to test out photography with my GoPro camera. This time-lapse sequence was put together using photos taken with the camera. The buffer beams were installed at each end of the frames. These had been painted with etch primer while the chassis was disassembled. With the buffer beams on, the coupling hooks and buffers were installed on them. The buffers are out of view of the camera. I'll point these out later in the video. Next, I installed the main and rear stretchers. These are bolted between the frames to give it strength. Fittings for the axle box oil system were also installed. Eventually these will be piped to oil boxes on the running boards. The running board supports were secured to the frames using countersunk, hex head machine screws. Pivots for the suspension levers were bolted onto the frames. These support the valve connecting rods and reversing mechanism. The steam cylinders were bolted into the frames. With the cylinders in place, the forward end covers were installed with newly cut paper gaskets. I used my laser engraver to cut them. It does a very nice job of making neat and accurate gaskets. Next, I installed the steam chests, again with newly laser-cut paper gaskets. I spent time adjusting the length of the studs that hold the steam chests and covers in place. Once all the studs were the same length, I locked them into the cylinders with Loctite. The snifting valves were then installed on the steam chests. Snifting valves relieve the vacuum caused when the locomotive is coasting. This vacuum can draw smoke from the smoke box into the steam chests and cylinders. Snifting valves prevent this from happening. The slide valves and valve rods were installed in the steam chests. Before installing the slide valves, I polished their faces to a smooth finish on an oilstone. This will ensure a good seal between the valves and the cylinder port faces. The automatic cylinder drains piping was installed between the valves and frame. Eventually this piping will run back to the cab to a valve that operates the drains. The steam supply T was then installed between the steam chest covers. Before installation I installed the oil check valves to ports on the steam T. The pistons and piston rods were installed in the cylinders. Prior to installing them I grooved the pistons and installed two 2-inch piston rings on each piston. The pistons are a nice smooth fit in the cylinder bores. I installed plugs in the holes that I had drilled for the axle oil system. I have decided to go with another oiling option per the drawings, so these ports are now surplus to requirements. With the plugs in place I could then install the horizontal frame stretcher as shown in the photo. This is held in place with bolts through the frame. I then installed the 1/8-inch pipe unions for the steam chest pressure gauges. This is a deviation from the drawings, but I would like steam chest pressure gauges in the cab when the engine is finished. Finally, I installed the cow catchers on each end of the frames. That concluded build activities for July 2025. In parallel to rebuilding the chassis, we have been working on the axle boxes with help from my dad. The photos show the axle boxes installed in the driving and leading horn blocks. I will produce a more detailed video of how these were made in my August update as we finish the trailing axle blocks. July 2025 was a better month. I progressed rebuilding of the chassis following installation of the horn blocks and completed 2 sets of axle boxes. There will be more updates on the Holmside build soon. Please like and subscribe to support my channel. Thank you.